In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. I'm sure you've heard those words before. They're the first words found in the Bible, and they have intrigued and challenged countless people, great and small, across the centuries. Have you ever considered what happened next? After God finished shaping and molding the earth and everything in it, he rested. The all-powerful, all-knowing, immortal God of the universe stopped after 6 days of creation and rested. Why would he do that? Was God tired? Was he worn out? I think we can safely rule out those possibilities. So what was it then? Let's take a look at the actual passage and see what we can discover. It's found in the first 3 verses of Genesis chapter 2. Thus the heavens and the earth and all the host of them were finished. And on the 7th day, God ended his work which he had done, and he rested on the 7th day from all his work which he'd done. Then God blessed the 7th day and sanctified it, because in it he rested from all his work which God had created and made. God rested on the 7th day to sanctify it. Okay, so what does sanctify mean? It's one of those religious-sounding words that everyone's heard, but might have trouble defining. In simple terms, it means to set something apart from other similar things. In this case, it refers to setting apart one day from all other days. But there's more to it than just separating things. The original Hebrew word used here comes from the root word kadosh, which is used in the Bible to talk about setting apart something that is to be regarded as holy. Keep that meaning in mind, because we're going to continue to find that word throughout our journey, and it's important for us to understand it. So what does it mean when it says God rested? The word translated as rested in this passage comes from the root word Sabbath. It's closely related to the word for Sabbath, except Sabbath is a noun and describes a thing, while Shabbat is a verb that describes an action. In other words, God Sabbathed on the 7th day. And in so doing, he blessed the 7th day and made it holy, sanctified, set apart. That day, that 7th day of rest, was designated by God as his Sabbath day. Many people assume that the Sabbath is just for the Jews, that God gave it to them and no one else. And yet here, at the end of the creation week, long before the Jewish people even existed, we see God himself resting from his work and setting apart the Sabbath as holy time. If the Sabbath was meant only for a specific group of people to keep centuries later, why did God carefully explain about sanctifying this very first Sabbath? Why does it feature so prominently in the opening pages of the Bible? The simple truth is, it wasn't meant for just the Jews. God created the Sabbath day as a gift he intended to share with all mankind. Shortly after giving the nation of Israel his 10 commandments, God reminded them about the importance of holy time. Surely my Sabbaths you shall keep, for it is a sign between me and you throughout your generations, that you may know that I am the Lord who sanctifies you. You shall keep the Sabbath, therefore, for it is holy to you. Work shall be done for 6 days, but the 7th is the Sabbath of rest, holy to the Lord. Later on in the Bible, we see God refer to it as the Sabbath of the Lord. Later still, during his time on this earth, Jesus Christ revealed himself to be the Lord of the Sabbath. The Sabbath is a gift for man, but it belongs to God, and he doesn't take it lightly. He makes every Sabbath holy, and he instructs us to keep it holy every week. But why? Why is this day so important that God sees fit to set it apart from all other days, week after week, and then insists that we stop what we're doing to observe it? I'll tell you why. It's because we need it. The Sabbath wasn't set apart just for a tribe of nomads who lived 3,000 years ago. The Sabbath is for us, today, now. God commands us to keep it holy, which is good for us, because if he'd made it optional, we'd never do it. There would always be one more project, one more chore, one more reason to put it off until later. And so God doesn't give us the choice. He commands us, stop, put it down. Climb out from under that pile of work that never stops growing and spend this special time with me. Every week, we have 6 days to focus on the work that needs to get done. But for just 1 day out of 7, we're given the incredible blessing of rest, of stepping away from the clutter and to-do lists of day-to-day life and building a relationship with our Creator. That's why Jesus reminds us the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. God didn't create the Sabbath as an arbitrary rule to make our lives more difficult. He commands us to keep it for the same reason he commands us to keep any of his laws, for our good, for our benefit, because we need it. When we reject the Sabbath, it's not God who suffers, it's us. We lose out on the blessings he's prepared for us. We get tired. We get overworked. We get stressed. We get further from God. We lose sight of the things that are truly important. But on the other hand, when we consistently embrace the Sabbath, we gain so much more than we give up. Here's what God has to say on the subject. If you turn away your foot from the Sabbath, from doing your pleasure on my holy day, and call the Sabbath a delight, the holy day of the Lord honorable, and shall honor him, not doing your own ways, nor finding your own pleasure, nor speaking your own words, then you shall delight yourself in the Lord. And I will cause you to ride on the high hills of the earth and feed you with the heritage of Jacob your father. The mouth of the Lord has spoken. If we make the things of God our priority on the Sabbath, we're going to get so much more out of it. We can't unlock the true potential of this day until we're willing to treat it like the holy, precious gift from God that it is. As you begin to read through the passages that tell us about the Sabbath, you might notice something else. The Sabbath is also described as a holy convocation, that is, a commanded assembly. The Sabbath includes the opportunity to gather with other believers to share the blessings of this day and learn more about what it means to be a Christian. Those who don't understand the Sabbath and haven't experienced its blessings sometimes assume the Sabbath is a burden. But those who faithfully keep the Sabbath quickly learn that the Sabbath is a wonderful gift. In fact, the burden comes from failing to keep this special time. We'll talk more about that as we move through this series. But in our next video, we need to take a moment to consider a common question. As long as we're setting aside 1 day each week, does it really make any difference which day it is? Let's talk about that next time.